Welcome to the Authentic Advisory Podcast. Hi, Mel.
Hi, Ben.
Yeah, how are you?
Could be better.
We can talk about that. Right? I hope you're enjoying the coffee.
Amazing.
Yeah, last time we had the very mini espresso capsule. Then we had matcha.
And all this.
And then now we have still Nespresso, but virtual.
Virtual 2.0.
Yeah, whatever the hell is. Yeah, and then we're having this watermelon thing.
Sponsor us, Nespresso.
Not sponsored, right now. So yeah, just saying. Okay, cool. So anyway, Mel, I heard. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think you just finished your first
Oh.
MDRT, first round for the year.
Yeah, I just finished it like 2 weeks ago.
And for the record, now we are in. I don't know. It's 5th August. I think it's August, right?
Yeah, something August.
Yeah. Cool. So, how do you feel?
Neutral. Okay, I mean, like it's a relief thing because like coming to the industry, they always say that you can do it once, it might be a fluke, right? Then you do it the second time, maybe still a fluke. But you can do it for your third time, then probably got a bit of substance lah.
This is your third round, right?
Third round.
Like total, like you
Yeah.
have done the third round, right?
Yeah.
When was your first? I know you kind of like, I don't know the exact details, but I kind of know. I remember like you did your first round within a few months. I think it was short.
Oh, like when I first started.
Yeah. Okay, like give us a backstory, right?
Okay.
Like I think people would like to kind of like hear the path and journey.
Oh, it's been a while. But okay, I joined the industry June 2021. Then I cleared my first round in September.
Oh, that's like 3, 4?
3 months? 3, 4?
Yeah,
3, 4 months. And then I ended that year with like around, I want to say like 1.8 rounds.
Oh, like that first year that you
Yeah,
joined.
1.8 rounds. Yeah, thereabouts.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then second year.
Second year, I think I cleared my first round in like March.
Okay, yeah. And then
Then I ended the year with like what 2.35 rounds.
right. Oh, it's 1.8. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then okay lah. Then that means like this year a bit slow lah.
Okay. Now that you put in perspective, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the horrible part, right? It's like, yeah, great, Mel, you cleared it, but how come you took like 3 months later this time round?
Yeah, 1.8. Wow. You means to say, right? Like you almost did. Yeah, means you joined in like June. Is it June? 2021 June,
Yeah.
right? Now within 6 months, you almost did like 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like,
I don't know how. I don't even know how. But yeah, it happened.
yeah, but one thing I'm interested to find out is like, not a lot of advisors here, you kind of forget MDRT, especially the first few times where, you first join the industry, the MDRT is a big thing, right? So, share with me, like, how do you think, like, the experience differs or the journey differs from the first round? Or let's say we talk about, like, the first year, the MDRT you get, which is 1.8, right? Which technically, is still, technically they count it as one, right?
Yeah.
But let's say it's like the production is 1.8 round or the first round. And then the second year, you kind of like did 2 rounds, right? So is there a difference? Like, the first round was like, maybe it's the first time you did, it was so hard. And then second year was like, was it easier or was it like way harder?
Okay. Okay. Each MDRT definitely means something. In terms of difficulty level, I don't think that's like quite okay. I think the only difference in difficulty for all 3 rounds is like, how do I put it? Maybe the ease of getting it, or in terms of like the number of people you have available to prospect still. Right? Because when you first start, then you have more people ma.
Yep.
Like your market is still fresh.
Correct.
So I would say that is probably like the only difference in difficulty. But each round is also difficult in its own ways lah. Okay, I think like when I first started, right, because you don't know what to expect, right? Then everyone just keeps saying like MDRT awards, whatever. So then that felt like the one benchmark that you should strive towards, to at least prove some sort of like, or to justify a switch into an industry, right? Because for me, just nice the amount that you need for MDRT is like around how much I was making back in my previous job. So to me, it's like I cannot change jobs and earn less. What?
And how much were you making like back then? Your range?
I think my annual was like 62,000, like in government lah. Like after 4 years of struggling in government. But yeah, so that was like the bare minimum right? Like if I earn that, then I have to minimally get the same amount. So then just nice MDRT is also around that ballpark figure So I think that was like okay. So that is why I should aim for MDRT.
Okay.
And then I remember that after clearing MDRT in September, right, it was like the what's next.
Like what's next? As in like what's the next target, or more like, or is it more like a feeling of okay, so now I achieve it, then is that all there is to this industry? Like which kind of like
I think it's more of the former. Cause going in, right, like I still remember in June when I started, I set my annual target as 30,000 for the remaining 6 months.
okay. Oh legit. Like
yeah.
it was like just 30K.
Yeah, just 30K lah. Cause
Which was just nice. Which
yeah,
was
like
about like
5K a month
okay,
which is
yeah.
like more than what I was earning, right?
Yeah.
So that was like, yeah lah, okay, let me be kiasu a bit and just set 30K. Then came September and like I doubled that amount, right? Then everyone around me or like my colleagues were saying like, hey Mel, then you should like aim higher lah. Like why not aim for like 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever. Then to me it was like, I was like, okay. I mean, I had no reason to say no. Because you hit your target already, then you just stop working, meh?
When do you hit the 30? Like you joined in June, so like when you hit the first 30?
Or
Like 1.5 months.
like around September, yeah.
So it's like July, August. Yeah, it's about like
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I cleared it. Then I was like, cannot be. I just stopped working, what?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay lah, let me just continue doing what I do and then see where the numbers take me lah. So I guess like for the first round or like the first year, it was kind of that, just doing it and then see what happens. And I think like when I first cleared, like when I officially cleared MDRT my first year, did I celebrate? I also don't know if I celebrated it. It was just like, okay. Yeah. And then that passed, cause like it resets second year.
Yeah.
So then second year still maybe like riding the high from like December and everything, and just doing things as per usual. And then I cleared the second round, or like I cleared my first round in like March or April.
Okay.
And then it just got stuck there for a while. Like my production stuck at that figure for like maybe the next 3 months.
So you mean like probably like Q1 March you hit the first round, right, of 2022. Then after that, like for the next quarter you just like when you say stuck, it's like it was just stagnating, like you didn't produce
I did
at
produce,
all, or
okay.
didn't produce as much?
So I produced, but I didn't produce as much to like move the needle to like, oh wow, you just hit your second round kind. It was just like, okay lah, like you still do meet people, close cases or whatever.
Why though? Like was it
like why I continued?
No, like rather like why it wasn't okay, I did my first round and then like the next one, okay, second round and then like third round, you know, because generally speaking they all say like if you want to COT it's a little bit more difficult because it's like literally 3 rounds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then based on time.
It's like oh wow, Mel, you're on track.
Yeah, like
why
on track, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you clear MDRT, why don't you hit COT,
so
right?
what was the thoughts on like during at that point in time?
I didn't see why I needed to hit it. Or like I didn't see why I needed to push beyond that. And I think like for my second year, the target I set for myself was like 100K.
Income or FYC?
FYC.
FYC, okay.
Yeah, so
I was about 1.5.
Yeah, also I was already
bonus,
like 3/4 there. Yeah. So then to me it's like, okay, I don't really have much urgency. Or at least like numerical wise, like there's no urgency. So I think like it gave me a bit more space to really think about life and like everything. Yeah, like cue existential crisis. But yeah, so I think like at that point when everyone was like, hey Mel, why don't you increase your target to the COT?
I assume so, right?
Yeah,
especially
confirm.
you know, in the agency, like don't even talk about like your ALs or whatever, but like generally speaking, people would just say like,
I mean,
hey,
that's the thing, right? The moment you hear someone, like if someone says that they're already at this amount, then like, oh, why don't you just aim for the next one?
Correct.
Without caring about everything else that's going on in your life lah. But I guess I didn't see a need to. Like I didn't see a need to like, oh yeah, I want to commit to COT. And I think like I was also dealing with some like issues lah, like not very happy at work. It's very ironic because like I tripled my income.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tripled my income in like
Short span of time.
in a short span of time, but my happiness didn't triple lor.
Do you expected? Do you had that expectations? I think this is very interesting, right? Because now you're bringing it up, you're talking about like money and then the kind of like level of happiness, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned like, of course, your income tripled, but your happiness didn't.
Yeah, in fact, I think it took a shit.
Yeah. So like, but then before that, did you then had the expectation that, or had the this idea or notion of like, okay, if my income increase, then my happiness would
Go up.
go up. Might not triple,
Yeah.
but like, do you had
Like
that kind of like,
proportionally,
yeah?
Honestly, I had no clue. Like, okay, to a certain degree, I thought maybe yes, because like then I could have more like disposable income to like eat and spend on food and whatever, right?
Yeah, I know you like food.
Yeah, I love eating food. Yeah, and like I still like sidetrack a bit, but I still told my director before I joined the career like what were some items on my bucket list lah. And I said like, oh, I want to fly business. Yeah, so like to me, I do want to be able to like experience these things that were previously unattainable, right? But I guess that is like the superficial level. But then if I had to go deeper, I think I also didn't really know. I don't know what I don't know ma. So whether or not I felt like, oh, I earn more money will make me happy, I don't think so. But I didn't expect okay, it's okay if it doesn't improve.
Right.
But it's another thing if it
Right.
Yeah,
like now it's not even like the happiness level is the same. It's like
yeah.
it's kind of like inverse.
Yeah, correct.
Right. It's like, okay.
So then that was very confusing.
What was the cause? Like, what do you think was the cause at the point in time, or maybe like now that you look back, like what do you think was the cause? Because I would like to imagine that. I mean, I go on calls with so many advisors, right? It's like MDRT, earning income 6 figures, 300,000, 400,000, and then it's like they're like living a life. You see all the time, right? We all see all the time. You see like they go to conventions and then we go to this and that, and then like I don't know PP, AP watches. It's kind of like they seem to be enjoying, right? So what do you think then? Like for you, it kind of took a different turn. What do you think was like kind of like the cause for that?
I think it was the subconscious fear. Like the subconscious fear that whatever I have now is not permanent, or it's not it will not last. Like in terms of the stability. And I think that was what scared me the most. Like, yes, I do warm market, I meet my friends. So definitely there's like some element of like trust relationships there, which then allow them to like, I wouldn't say support, but for them to not have as much resistance, or the barrier to entry is a lot lower. But then I guess I knew that one day this will run out. What?
It's like the fear of like the warm market, because you did mostly or if not all warm. Oh no, yeah. So the usual fear of like, okay, what if I run out of the warm market once the closer ones kind of like
then like what's next, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, like I always look outwards. Because I mean, come on lah, like we take 4 papers and then we become a financial advisor, right? Like,
low barrier to entry indeed.
Yeah, and then like I look outwards and I see like the other advisors that have been around for a very long time. And then of course I would want to like emulate them, or I would want to be at that level of like confidence or that level of competency that they are at. And I know that whatever I have achieved so far is not because I'm entirely that. And it just felt like, wow, shit, I still have like a long way to go before I feel like I will know everything, or like know how to have proper systems in place and whatever. So I think as much as I had a lot of things to be grateful for going on, I probably couldn't enjoy it or live in it because I was always worrying about the what ifs.
Right.
Yeah.
So right. So you kind of like, it's kind of like you. Okay, like you got what you wanted, you achieved and everything else. But I think what you're saying is like still living in that fear of the what if, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't I'm very curious, because when you talk to advisors and everything else, some more often than not, like when I speak to them, it's like, okay, once they achieve the MDRT, and then it's kind of okay, and then they always go into this state of complacency and comfort, right? Because generally speaking, if you look at our agency or the agency model, right, there's always it's a compounding is there's compounding effect in it, right? Because it's recurring, etc., right? So, people is like, okay, if you do 100K FYC this year, next year, maybe you got like, I don't know, maybe at least FYC recurring means 20 or 30, they add all the bonuses, everything else, it could be a good money. You can earn like 50K without doing anything.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing,
So people will feel comfortable. So what? So this is something I'm curious, because I think a lot of people are curious about, and I think it might serve them, which is like, so what made you still live in, not necessarily like fear is a good thing, but like what made you had that thinking that, hey, this might not outlive, like my success that I had in the last maybe 9-10 months might not outlive my future in the next like 2 years. What made you had that fear or that thought, or is it more like a kind of upbringing, or like that's who you are and stuff like
oh, let's not get into the upbringing stuff. Maybe later.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
please continue watching. Maybe we'll talk about it. Okay, but yeah.
I think the biggest, like when you were saying all that, right? I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was like the lack of control that I had over the sustainability. Like
Explain.
I couldn't see far. Like I couldn't see what the next 3 or 6 months or like the next 2 years will look like. And I think that scared me, And I didn't want to keep going down. I didn't want to keep doing this like, okay, wake up, think of who to set appointments with, think of who to reach out to, meet people, and then cycle repeats itself. Like there must be more to it than that lah. And I think I also didn't like how I felt when I was reaching out to people, because somehow it still felt like I was asking them for a favor. Like
What's the script? If you don't mind sharing, like kind of like what was the approach or the script? Was it like a direct, like, hey, I just joined, that kind of stuff?
So of course at the start everyone does the usual, right?
Yeah.
Project
Oh,
100,
yeah.
like, hey, I just joined, will you want to review your portfolio or whatever? Honestly speaking, like if someone is new and they just join, and you as a consumer, if you have no need for that, right, why would you even want to like oblige to a portfolio review, right? So then of course from that point of view, to me it's like, oh, that person is doing me a favor if they agree to it,
Right.
because I don't bring any value to that
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is then also why like I made it a point to like continuously work on like different stuff, so that depending on like the person's demographic or like problems, I would know what best to help them with. Or like imposter syndrome lah.
You had that?
Yeah lah,
Strong.
damn strong. Yeah, damn strong. But I mean it's a good thing, because in the end like it spurred me to want to know more, which I think is great lah. Like
Yeah.
to continue being curious about like things and whatever. But I think it never really went away, because, or like this like feeling of begging for appointments never really went away, because I think it's just like a mindset framing thing. Like to me it's like, I need this appointment more than you need to meet me. And I know it mah. Like deep down you know it, like it or not. Like it however much you want to tell yourself. But you also know that you need the appointment more than the person needs to meet you. Yeah. And I guess that's why like I was caught in that like really shitty cycle, like in April or May
The
of
2022,
my second,
right?
yeah,
That's
of
okay,
2022.
yeah.
Because I was like, cannot be just like that leh. Like 就是这样 meh. You repeat this cycle, and then you don't know how sustainable it will be. You don't know like how you're going to continue meeting new people. So many different questions, and questions that I had no answers to.
Really? Because like, typically in the agency, you definitely have people that are below average, above average, COT, TOT producers, advisors that, maybe our agency leader, whatever, has been like years in the industry. Like,
How did they do it, right?
yeah, because I was surprised, because when you say like you don't really have that kind of like answers to, yeah. I'm guessing, I don't think, I'm making assumptions here, but I'm guessing like you are saying like, it's not that you don't have the answer. I think it's maybe you're still not sure whether those answers are the one. I don't know. Like, because everybody, in this industry, everybody's like
Yeah.
doing sharing and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
So I'm sure if everybody have their fair share. Obviously you did. So
So I think like this whole idea about like prospecting or like running out of people to meet
yeah.
is a very common problem that people will talk about all the time. And definitely like top producers will always share about like how they do things,
Yeah.
how do they whatever to get new appointments, right? Let me try and remember what I've heard of before. You can buy leads,
Yeah.
right? You can buy leads. You can do cold calls. You can do roadshows. uh, you can use social media
Mm-hmm.
and you can just be super thick-skinned and keep texting your warm market
Yeah.
relentlessly
Yeah.
until they break down and then
Cave
agree to
in.
meet you, right? Yeah, and cave in.
Cave in, yeah.
Yeah, so like probably these main five.
Yeah.
So for me, I definitely didn't want to do cold. So that left with two, which is social media and relentlessly asking people for appointments.
And maybe referrals.
Yeah, and referrals.
Yeah.
So for all these three, I mean, I was already on social media. Like I was very open about like my job and everything.
Yeah.
And that honestly helped with like some passive inquiries at the start. So I was already doing that. Second one, relentlessly asking like I'm not that thick skin because I already feel like I'm begging for appointment. So obviously then there is that natural like resistance to it for whatever reasons, like for whatever like limiting beliefs I have about myself. And referrals, which I'm still not very good at doing because I just felt like I need to be referable, right? Because ultimately, if you don't prove yourself, or like if today you went to a restaurant and the food sucks,
Yeah.
will you refer the restaurant? No, right? So firstly, the restaurant has to make sure that the food is amazing, the service is good, everything. Before they know that, yes, I'll get referrals. And secondly, I know I can ask for that referral because I know I have done all that. So coming from me, who is like still 1 year in the business, how do I know whether or not I am actually referable?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know ma. So then, yeah lah. So I had like a few options, but none of the options gave me much clarity.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think with the idea of like sustainability, like this has always been the biggest thing to me because ultimately being a FA is not stable, right? You will have good months, bad months, or maybe even good or bad years. But no one can answer that question on sustainability. At least until I found my answer lah. Right. But yeah, no one can answer that because I don't think people have thought about that in the way that I wanted them to.
What do you mean? Or like, or what is, or maybe then at this point in time, maybe then the question that I have for you, just so that I can understand you also, which is like, then what is, how do you define? Like we always talk about like definition of terms, right? During our conversation. So, like, how do you define then sustainability, or rather, what would sustainability look like in your head if you were to describe it or draw it out?
So to me, it's like, wow, one day I would love if people just come and find me because they know, they have heard of me or they see the work that I do and they feel like, wow, I'll be very lucky to have Mel as my advisor or like to have her take a look at my finances, my portfolio and to get that download from her lah. That is like, wow, if I reach that, right, I think I'll be happy. I can truly say that I'll be happy if I reach that stage. Then of course is how do I get there? Right? Because I think it will be everyone's dream to be able to not have to actively prospect as much and to work purely based off referrals, word of mouth, or just like passive inquiries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least when you meet someone, it's not because it's because they also know your value and your worth. Yeah. And to me, that is the ideal end state. Then how? How to build? Like there's no guidebook ma.
Yeah.
Like there's no guidebook, there's no like training in agencies on like how to get to this state. Because frankly speaking, this industry is measured purely by quantifiable numbers. But whatever I'm asking for is qualitative. Yeah, if you ask them, how do I MDRT? How do I get X amount of appointments a month? Yeah, that one sure got a lot of answers one. But how to get to where I want to be? There are no answers one. So why I couldn't or why I didn't feel like I had answers available despite like a really strong organization behind me is because the questions that I'm asking is not conventional lor.
And do you find an answer? And like, if what was the answer, and how do you find it?
Short answer, yes.
Or at least did it improve that
Yeah.
certainty, or at least have a better idea?
Yeah, so like I think for me, I'm someone that needs a lot of structure. In a sense that I need to see like either a mind map or a roadmap in my head. And then of course lah, one day I'm on Instagram and I think the universe heard me or like they saw me struggling with my thoughts. Then suddenly this sponsored ad by Ben to the right came out. And I was like, advisory model. oh, what's this? Click for a free video. Then of course you click lah. So I click, right? Then I watch. Then I got led to this like 45-minute video.
Yeah, dude, that was long. When I created that was long.
And I watched it. Yeah, I really watched it. I watched the entire 45 minutes video and then I sent it to like a group chat that I was in. Because I was like telling them, watch this. Yeah, and
What was the takeaway? Like, what was like, out of that 40 minutes video? And if anyone's watching, I don't think I still had that 40+ minute video. We changed some stuff, but yeah. But what was like the takeaway at the point in time?
Okay, so context, the video ran through like different business models available in this industry, right? And for the lack of it's just called passive and active lah. And it was just talking about the different ways that we can get leads, for the lack of a better term, and how it can be a ecosystem eventually. And I think the interesting part was that it's not like a definitive oh, everyone has to work towards this model eventually. It's more of, hey, there are like 5 different models. Choose the one that applies to you the most. Or like choose the one that resonates with you the most. And if that is the model that you like, then these are the different things that you have to take note of.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that was the one.
Yeah, that was the one.
Like, was it the fact that like, okay, you didn't have to go through like one particular model that seems to be everybody must go through kind of model, or which is more like, okay, you get an option to choose like, okay, you know what, I can do this if I prefer that, have their own options and so forth. Like, was that the like key factor that you're able to choose and create your own that drew you?
No, I think I just like the fact that someone had already thought about it. And that actually the questions in my head are not, it's not crazy. And that actually there is a proper way to survive in this industry. Like, it's not difficult if you just follow certain steps and follow certain like guiding principles. And I think like in that moment, it suddenly gave me the clarity, at least as to like, okay, what other things should I continue to do to work on my business? Because, okay, when we first start, the only thing we know is go for appointment, do proposal, present, pangkang. And then after a while, I think someone said this before. I don't remember if it's you. It's like in the business and on the business, right?
Yeah.
So if today, like, and I think that's the difference. Like, I started seeing myself as a business entity rather than like an individual employee. Because today, if I'm selling this cup of coffee, so many things has to go into it, right? Like, first, of course, the technical part is making sure the coffee tastes good.
Yeah.
And then you have to do like the marketing, the ads, whatever, the sales, the CRM, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just about me making the coffee or me selling you the coffee. And if I had to liken it to like this industry, of course, perfecting the coffee is like perfecting my technical skills. Then I have to market myself.
Yeah.
And I have to work on all these other things, which then gave me this like eureka moment that actually there's not enough time in the day, because if I'm trying to work towards this like sustainable business model, then there are so many like elements that I have to perfect, or I have to get started, or like how, like what's the sequence, right? And that's why I sign up lah. Sign up for the call lah. I sign up for the free call lah. Because I was sold lah. Because can you imagine I was struggling with these questions for like 3 months. I couldn't get the answer that I needed from anywhere else. And then the universe heard me lah and sent me your sponsored ad.
And then I think it's interesting. I think that's the and here's the funny thing, okay? Like, when I was an advisor, I had zero thought on like sustainability. I had zero thought of like systems, I think maybe I kind of like it, but I didn't have like, oh, I'm going to sit down today and create a system for my advisory business. I didn't, right? Every day was just it was just a mixture of like, okay, I'm going to do sales, I'm going to have a team, so on and so forth. And then my sustainability was just having strong faith that 钱一定会可以赚回的。
Not wrong.
Yeah, right. So that was that. And I think like after I got out and I spoke to a lot more advisors, then I realized like, hey, then I start to find myself, right, like creating step by steps, so on and so forth, right? And I think this is one of the things, one of the pinpoints that I feel very strongly for in the industry, which is like, we go in as, you think about the people who usually goes in the industry, right?
Yeah.
People that usually don't like to, more often than not all the time, I know there are very smart ones like yourself, but people don't really like to like study, kept in a box, do step-by-step stuff, right? They want the freedom, the flexibility. So then the industry attracts this thing. And also not to mention, like, of course, agency leaders and everybody else is like time flexibility, sky is the limit income, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so then this group of people come in, and then when they go for their prospecting, their sales and day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
Free flow, lor.
Yeah.
Yeah, free flow, right? I had so many advisors telling me who were just like come on call, and they were saying like, oh, you know what? I wake up,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. It's like they literally leave. People say like, you live on the edge, right?
Yeah.
Like you left your last $10, and then you just survive. Yeah, they just live like that based on their time, right?
Yeah.
So every day is like, oh, I think of what I need to do, so on and so forth, and it just becomes something that they just really living on day to day, and there's no uncertainty there. Right.
Okay, I want to say like there's honestly like no right or wrong. There is, but the only thing that we can look at is like the people that are really successful today. What are their habits? Right, there must be a reason why to-do lists exist. There must be a reason why like morning routines exist. But ultimately it's also like up to the individual lah, like whether or not that is something that they want to like subscribe to. And like for myself, I just thrive on that kind of structure.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like the most creative person. I think I need to still have some sort of like guiding pointers, or like some sort of process to reference to. And then of course along the way maybe things will free flow and whatever. And the reality is that I'm not even a salesperson to begin with. Like I only know how to go to the gym. I only know how to like
You were what, Singapore?
no lah. I mean I did sports science and whatever. Let's not talk about that. Yeah. Old stuff. But
Mel's, I think she bench and squat heavier than me. Although it's a shame for me to say that, but
maybe. But yeah lor, so to me it's like not everyone is a salesperson.
Yeah.
And not saying that this industry is like pure sales. But there are still elements of it, right? Like soft skills, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think earlier when you mentioned that when you were still in the industry, you never really thought so much about the step by step. And it's true, like we shouldn't be expected to think of all of that because we don't know what we don't know. And you only reach this stage because you have gone through all of that and you've spoken to so many people that you started to see like similarities and whatever.
Patterns, observations,
And that is what leaders or managers or coaches should do lah. And then it goes back to the idea, right? Like, yeah, I could probably spend like the next 5 years figuring, maybe I could spend the next 5 years figuring this out myself. But would I rather just do it in a year or like over 5 years?
What made you choose though? Like, but because right now just comparing between like the options of, okay, you know what, I can take 5 years.
Yeah.
Or I can accelerate it within, let's say, a year. But obviously, if you accelerate it within a year, it requires an investment amount, right?
Correct.
Which most people wouldn't, at least even consider,
Yeah.
right? Then you might consider spending a few $100s, $1,000, right? But
Yeah.
it might not spend more than 5 figures on it. So what was the thought process? I was just curious. What was the thought process behind that? Because I could just say that, hey, Mel, you know why do I need to spend this amount of money where I can, quote unquote, learn from a manager, take a couple of years longer, so on and so forth.
So of course.
And by the way, just saying, like, your agency is strong. Like, you have so much support, and kudos to them. I have great respect as well. So,
okay, so the thing about investing in myself or like us choosing to invest in ourselves is such a foreign concept. And like, it's not common. I feel like it's not a common choice that people face growing up or even like in their adulthood, right? Because look at things like mental health or like their own physical health or like business mindset and whatever. How many of us actually consider investing in it? Right, like getting a PT, is expensive.
yeah.
But they don't mind signing up for like a gym membership that they don't even use. Or like, okay, I mean mental health it can be expensive, but it's the fact that we don't even explore those options to begin with. So like when faced with this 5 years or 1 year thing, it took me a while to like be okay with it. And I think ultimately like the thought process I had was I don't want to waste time. Because there have been moments where I lag and I don't text a friend and then they tell me that, hey, last week I just met someone and got something. So that taught me, it just taught me that the cost of you procrastinating is this or is it worth it?
Mm.
And that is like already a very minor thing. But if I had to like extrapolate it to this scenario in question, is like what would I be risking?
Mm.
And especially I already know that these are the questions and these are the problems that I want an answer to. What if this X dollar investment, of course it's hefty lah, but what if I could make more money out of it?
But there's always a chance that you don't.
There's a chance.
I mean,
lah.
that's always like how people look at it, right?
Of
Even
course.
so, it's kind of like stages, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I never consider investing in myself.
Yeah.
And then after that, okay, now I consider. But then now I have to look at the amount, right?
Yeah.
And then there is still a chance that, okay, there's success, and then there's people that don't get as much
Yeah,
success.
yeah.
Which should always be the case across like anywhere, right?
Definitely.
So then there's still the chance that you might not, let's say you spend like 30 grand, for example, right? You might not get like, maybe at best you get 30, right? Or not at best, but let me minimum get 30. But then like it doesn't make sense if you just like,
Maybe it's 30 and a few painful lessons.
yeah, right?
Okay,
So
yeah, so I think then the question has to, I think you first have to identify like what, with this amount that you're paying, what are you getting? Like what kind of support, what kind of resources, what will you be getting out of it lah? And I think like from the calls that I had with you, you didn't feel like a scammer.
ouch. Like
Hey, that's like now-
I thought that like
Hey,
you know
but-
I would have been
Yo,
after
right,
years
I
of
mean that's like someone's like biggest fear, right? Like
Yeah.
to invest 5 figures in someone that they don't actually know personally.
And I think it's kind of like you're afraid also is like the people doing the coaching or trainings or offering a service, right? It's like even for the quick buck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so there are so many considerations. But you see, that's the thing. If you keep thinking about so many problems
Yeah.
or things to think about, then chances are you won't do it lah.
Mm.
So then it just boils back down to a few things, right? Like, are you willing to put in the effort to make the investment worth it?
Yeah.
Because you can sign up for something, but if you don't put the effort to like show up, to implement, to use, then it's as good as paying for nothing lah. Or you must well just like put audio, then you fall asleep every day. I don't know. Yeah.
Go into your subconscious
Yeah,
and
like
then just
maybe-
think and go rich.
Yeah, correct. Like you wake up suddenly, like you can repeat the sales process.
No, like Mel, I think that's the big thing. Like that's the thing. And why like so petrol is because like, you know, I've told you and I told the rest, it's like I invested more than 250,000 in
Yeah.
all the coaches stuff, right? And then it's like I realized like the thing is that when you invest, it's not just like I put my money in the stock market and then I see how it goes. Right? Like if we have that kind of attitude, I realized that even when last time there's a couple of times where I kind of had that attitude
Yeah.
when I invested like 10 to 20K and then I'm like, you know, see what they have, you know, and see
Yeah.
how it is, right? I realized I was screwed there. Because like what happened was like I felt like that program wasn't as good, so on and so forth. And I decided to change my mindset. It became instead of like let it work for you, it became a make it work for you attitude.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's like, you know, if let's say you're more of a, you know, those more savvy investors, you know, they will say like usually like once they invest, they say they, you know, value investing, there's a particular price that they will
Yeah.
maybe exit at, right? Yeah. So to justify the ROI, they have a buffer for risk and so forth. I think the same thing when investing in ourselves, right? It's like we got to make it work. So one of the things, the mindset that I had was like, so this is my own personal ROI. It's like every dollar that I invest,
Yeah.
I minimally need to get 10x out of it, right? So if I invest 30 grand, I need to make back at least 300 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have to. And let's say along the way, I only did like 150, for example, right? And I'm like I need to squeeze it dry. You know what I mean? Like you need to squeeze it dry
You
and
milk
make it.
it.
You got to milk it. If
Yeah.
not, it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
at all to invest, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I think people don't get it. Like people is like, see how it goes, Mel. You know. But like if I just feel strongly believe like if we can make it work, if we can choose and say that I want to make it work, right? I mean, of course, on the other hand, if the other provider or services like they don't reply you, they MIA for 5 months, you know, then that can't be helped, right? You made a bad decision. Yeah, but like if someone is always there, and like if our agency is always there, like it not even need to be like programs or whatnot, right? But I think even if agencies and everything else, if your leaders are always there,
Yeah, the presence
yeah,
lah.
you gotta like quote unquote squeeze them dry in certain degree to, you know, I mean, of course, for all the agencies, I know sometimes you guys are busy, you need to handle stuff. I get it, you know. I think it's just like as an advisor, you know, like you gotta make it work, you know.
So the reality is that, I mean, I feel like, okay, 2 thoughts came to mind. I think the first one is easier. And that's why even though an organization might be really strong, you will still have people that don't make it. Even though everyone is given the same
The law
resources.
of bell curve. The bell curve God.
It's called natural selection.
I like to call it bell curve, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, That's the thing, like everyone comes in with the same resources, everything's the same. But then it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes back to the idea of investing in ourselves, and like either you wait for something to happen or you make something happen. And then the next thing that came to mind was how I think even this whole idea, or like this whole process of investing a huge sum into coaching, right, it's like a process. Right? Like the first part is they might invest in it just to make themselves feel good. Right? Like maybe that is like the real intention of them doing it. Like, oh yeah, I'm going for this.
Yeah.
Then they can like, yeah, there I'm doing something. Right?
Yeah,
To
okay,
make
that is true.
yeah, so
that is
then
true.
it's like they are taking you through a journey, or like life is taking them through a journey. It's like, okay, you did something already, and at least you did it. Okay, then the next step is, of course, or the next process in this journey is whether or not they actually do anything lah. Right? And then I think to me, like the last part that came to mind was about, even if this investment doesn't pay off, we shouldn't let it bar us from repeating future investments in other things. And why I say that, I see it like, it's like the attachment that we have to money, right? And sometimes that is like the biggest factor holding us back from wanting to invest in ourselves, because we attach too much meaning to that numerical value in our bank.
Oh,
Right?
this whole man, I can just think of a whole another topic of like
I know.
money, man. But
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes back to like, if someone has a lot of money but they are still unwilling to invest in it, what is it lor? Like, what are the reasons behind that? And I think even if we do invest in ourselves and that investment doesn't pay off, but we shouldn't feel bad about it, because we learn stuff along the way. And I think we have to remember this as like the underlying principle, which is whatever choice we make, there are lessons to be learned. Whether they are good or bad, I mean, that is for us to attach the meaning to it. But we will still come out of it with different experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that was the main reason why I decided to just like, fuck it, let me like do this and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Because it's so cliche, but it's like, how can you expect yourself to change if you do the same thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can I keep like, why do I want to keep wallowing in that hole when actually someone has already come forward with like a potential answer? Yeah. Then just
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think like just now you mentioned about basically it's like those two options, right? Whether I take 5 years or take 1 year. It's basically kind of the idea of like, how much are you willing to trade your time for money, or money for time, right? Yeah. And they always have this equation like time equal to money. At first, like when I first heard of it, I thought like that's true, because everybody can explain and justify. Until I realized that there's actually a kind of a nuance, which is actually time is actually far more valuable than money. Because you think about it, right? Like you and I having this experience right now
yeah.
will never ever be the same like tomorrow or 1 year later. Right? And you and I can never have, like, we can't buy back this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so the time cannot be renewed, you see? But I realize like $10 now, and then $10 2 years later, it's still that same piece of paper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think like the money can always flow in, it can flow out. But the time is, how are you gonna get? Like,
You can't lah. You can't replace it.
Right.
And like, you can't replace time, experience, opportunities.
yeah.
But that's why it also goes. That's why I keep going back to the idea of like, how much importance do you attach to
The money, yeah.
the money lah? Like,
Yeah.
and oh my god, yeah, it just like goes back to like upbringing and whatever, how you
Yeah.
perceive money, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah lah, the truth is we don't grow up thinking that yes, we need to pay money to invest in ourselves. Because to us, we always see it as money coming in.
I think in fact, I think like of how like we are being brought up, especially in Singapore or like in Asian country, right, is that there's a negative connotation when it comes to using money to invest in ourselves. Because you think about when you're young, right? I don't know about you, maybe you're too smart, but like when I grew up, like my mom have to like put me to freaking tuition,
Yeah.
fucking math tuition and all
Yeah,
the
I had everything.
holy like E-math, A-math, that kind of bullshit, and then I like fucking hate it. Last time I was like go to tuition center, it was like 2 hours
Yeah.
of
Oh, but you see, okay, that's interesting because growing up, we go to tuition because we are not enough and we need the help, right?
Mm.
Maybe that's why we don't like it now. Because if we invest
Oh,
in,
yeah.
because then it's like
It reflects like
yeah,
that we
it's
are
like me acknowledging that if shit, I
a
actually
loser.
suck. Yeah,
Yeah.
like then I need a coach. You see, maybe that's why like
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
very
Actually,
interesting
maybe
thing.
actually that might be one of the reasons also. Actually, of how we feel is like
Or like Mel, you're doing so well. Why do you need to invest in a coach?
yeah.
Actually, yeah, that came a few times.
Yeah. Maybe I think people is kind of like thinking like, if you are okay, I think here's the connotation or here's what's being implied, right? Which is there are two groups, right? Of categories. So the first one is okay, I am already very good, but I want to have a coach or a tutor or whatever it is to make myself even better at from top 1% to top 0.001%. Then there's the other group, which is you're always F9, you're always the bottom 10%, and then you go tuition because you need to at least add a pass. So then I think it's like, especially when, I think more often than not, it's like, and this is like my observation, it's like, even when we're young, when we go tuition and everything else, it wasn't so much about like, you got A2, I send you tuition to get A1. I mean, as said, unless you have parents that are really like that, right? But more often, even for me, it was just more like, you got E8, you suck. You better get tuition, get at least B3. So it's like we have been get that association that going to tuition, pay money for it, and then like we gotta like go from because we are here. And then you go into the tuition class, right? Depending on which tuition class school. But it's like you're
So
basically
like-
with a bunch of losers. I mean, losers in the sense that everybody is not doing well.
But I belong to the other group.
I know, exactly. And I think that's why like and that's why I think like there's two school of thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think like more often than not, as we're brought up, we always think that okay, we are not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's a huge one, But I think it's like, so it's a totally different thinking. Then if you are in that group whereby, okay, A1, then you need to get A star or whatever fuck that your parents want you to get, right? Then it's really more like, can have tutor or whatever it is, give that edge and buy back the time, right? So it's just back to opportunity cost for that. So if you look at like investing in programs like as of right now, right, it's there's this energy. I felt it was pretty good. It was, let's say, someone is earning $1,000 right now a month, right, and then their goal is $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Then this was a good energy. I think it was a good closing frame lah. But it was more like, okay, so you know what this means? It means that so the idea is for every $1 that you do not know how to earn, you're losing $1.
Okay.
So if you're earning 1,000 and you want to go for 5,000, the difference is 4,000, right?
You're losing 4,000.
Every month you're losing $4,000.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when I had the thought that when I heard of it, I'm like, yeah, if my goal is $500,000 a month and I'm doing 100, then holy shit, I'm losing 400 grand is a lot of money, But then again, maybe people at this group will probably think about it as much, more than like, people at like, who's not really good at like the grades or like where
Yeah.
they're at.
Then I guess it goes back to like the idea of potential. But okay, this is like a thought that I had. And it's about like how growing up, the only idea of like investing in ourselves is tuition, right? And as we come into like being an adult, maybe the reason why we don't subscribe to that is because we also don't know what kind of coaches we need. Because we don't know what we want.
Yeah.
Because last time it's very straightforward. The only thing is academics, right? And then there's only one kind of coaching that you can go for, which is tuition.
Yeah.
But then now, even though there are so many different things available, like you have life coaches, career coaches, therapists, PT, business coaches, high performance coaches, sales coaches. But then we don't even know where to start because we don't even know, actually, do we need any? Like, are we working towards something that requires the help of coaches? Because there's no exposure, lor.
And I feel like this thought or like the very fact that people are not exposed to it, maybe it's different for you. But I feel especially a lot of people that I've spoken to that came from mid-career switches that did corporate, like it's just something that they might not have that exposure to. Because you think about it, right? More often than not, I think there's I don't want to put it, but I feel like in the industry also there's this sense of entitlement to quote unquote free information and free training.
Okay.
Because like you see, when we join the industry, then we have managers, bosses, or whatever it is, right? Okay, free.
Yeah.
And then you have companies doing trainings for you, hire speakers, free.
Yeah.
And then if you want to find out more from other people, you ask other colleagues, advisors from other companies, free.
Yeah.
But then you see, even you come from corporate, right? You go for trainings,
Free.
Free. Correct? Plus still give you buffet, maybe.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, right? Give you
definitely a
buffet,
lot,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, totally different. And then you learn, upgrade yourself, upskill yourself. And then half the time you're like, shit, why my company sent me to do this shit? It's so boring. I mean, let's be honest. Guys, let's be honest, okay? You go for a company's training, right? R&R, ethics, you're just gonna be like some new fun house thing, and then you just go there just to clock the freaking hours because you need to fulfill certain criteria or regulations, right? Yeah, I didn't think, okay, no choice has to come. Or some sharing, like company organize a sharing for this particular advisor, then you go in because they tell you can clock in 2 hours of what do you call that? CBD hours.
Yeah, CBD hours.
Right? You know that kind of shit. And then it becomes like, okay, so it's free, and then like I have no choice to go in, blah blah blah. And then so then now when someone else says that, hey, you want to learn more? Yes, I want to learn more. Okay, pay money.
Yeah.
The fuck do I want to pay money? Because all the time it's been free. Right? And all of their agendas is one, you learn more. Then now this guy also say want to learn more. You say you want to learn more, then but you don't pay money.
Yeah, because we are not used to paying money.
Exactly. Right? And I think this is also the reason why, I mean, I've spoken to like people at COT, people at 10, 15 years are very, very successful in their own ways, right? It's like they actually invest money. Yeah. Like they don't scrimp on and save on like the investment fees or whatever it is, because they know like time is more valuable. They know that based on their character traits and beliefs, they will make more than what they put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
no, it's funny because like even when I was in government last time, right, there are so many
got buffet.
courses.
Really got buffet.
Really got buffet. I got like
I thought it's only an advisory thing, like you know,
got like 2 tea breaks and 1 lunch. Really well fed.
Wow.
No, but it's like it's very funny because even when I was in government, right, there were so many like courses that we could go for to like upskill and whatever, but I was never interested in it. Like there were so many things like soft skills or whatever, PowerPoint, Excel.
Yeah.
They're just different things that you can browse and go for, but for whatever reason, it never appealed to me. But now it's like you change the environment, you change the situation and the circumstance. And then now I realize how important it is to have all these things. So it's like, it's very interesting, like how sometimes it's like maybe not your natural state, but you just need a few adjustments.
Do you think it's an education system thing? Because like you think about it, right? Like let's be honest, the money thing, how to earn more money, how to save money, it's not that like, the schools don't really teach you.
Yeah, it's not like
I mean, you came from what? You came from some prestigious confirm one, right? Some JC. Which JC?
AC is prestigious, man.
I don't know.
The uniform nice only lah.
I mean, I didn't manage to get anywhere near there. My points.
I mean, this one not going on. The full thing is not being released, right?
It is.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the point is like.
But okay, then it depends. Like, you got generational or passive wealth lah. Yeah, then that one also makes a difference because when you are brought up in that environment, your parents and the people that you know are naturally more savvy about money.
That's true.
So they would have better literacy, I feel. Maybe lah. Like they would have.
I think it's just the environment.
Yeah.
Right? Like the environment would just, by default.
Yeah, and like I mean I've heard stories of how like parents or like how their parents had money but made sure they didn't have it. Like they had to work for it.
Yeah.
So that
Train
they
the values.
understood.
Yeah.
So they understood the value of money. Or like how to make money. Even like when I meet people now, like parents educate their kids on what they've been doing themselves, be it like bank stocks, dividends or whatever.
Yeah.
And then growing up, since that's all that the kid has heard about, they treat it as like the one and only way to retire and the one and only way to invest.
Yeah.
So like it or not, like your education system and your upbringing and like the stuff that you've been surrounded with will definitely shape the way you view and see things. Yeah. Then
oh my god, Mel, like now you mentioned about those generation whatever.
Yeah.
I literally in uni had a friend, and then this friend, right, he does a lot of investing. Right? And then after that, we are good friends. And then one day you will just check out your Chinese New Year, right? And then after that, we are talking about ang pao. This is the kind of like the age where you still want ang pao and everything else. Yeah. Then after that, he was telling me invest money and what. Okay, cool. Because he invests quite a bit of money. I'm talking about like 6 figures. I said, okay, where do you get the money from? Because I know for cocksure, like this guy didn't like
earn it.
work every single day. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right. But he's a brilliant guy. Like I love him a lot. But I know that he's not like you work every day, to get the money, right? So I know that his family's rich, and then I just ask him and say, where do you get money from? Oh, Chinese New Year, my mom gave me like 80 grand as an ang bao. And then, but she just tell me, I need to invest like most of it, so on and so forth. And I'm like, holy fuck, Yeah, so like, that was the mention about this. Yeah, they are, but this guy is like, he's very careful with money. He's not like flamboyant, like very flaunt his wealth, whatever. He's like very, very, conservative and a very, very nice guy, So I think like these kind of people, I think very rare.
Yeah.
Especially the system. Because you look at the school, right? It's like most of us are just like, okay, we just need to get the accounting degree, the economics degree, go and work, and then like, try to get a BTO, right? Get married, maybe have kid, right? Then children's education, then get a house, and then blah, 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 or maybe get a different car right now, so on and so forth, right? Yeah, so I think like we will not be, so I think that's what majority of the country or what people are being brought up to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's always, and this is something I noticed across like thousands of advisors talk to, which is it's always, especially the newer ones, it always seems like a culture shock to them. Because all the time they are being spoon-fed. They are given a system, structure, and process to follow. Now they're on their own. And I think when someone is given the power to have their own autonomy over their time, their freedom, maybe have a little bit more money, I think they do not know how to handle nor manage the sudden access of now you don't have to be 8 to 5, you can wake up at any time you want. I think people don't know how to handle that when like so much is just given to them at a point in time, right? And I think it's just like, okay, why do I need to invest myself? Because hey, but last time I didn't, then now I need. Then it's like, right? So I feel like it's a lot of that's why I think, that advisory is hard not because of the skill sets only. Because I think skill sets are easy to pick up.
Yeah.
Right? Like agency is easy to pick up. I think it's about like the state, and the shift from not even shift of mindset, but I think shift of identity. Right? From someone who is go up the education system, go corporate, and then now suddenly I need to do ABC. But then again, if you don't do it, you don't get the kind of success you want, Yeah. But then you want to do it, then it's hard.
It's so weird because it's like by the time we start working, we are like not young, right? Like we are like 24, 25.
Yeah. For the guys, I think it's like
20,
25,
26,
25,
I don't know.
26, yeah. Well, if
And-
let's say you go uni, right?
Yeah,
Let's say you go uni.
and it's like so interesting because, or like, okay, I don't even think it's interesting. I think it's just like a bit scary when you think about how when we grow up, right, we are like following the schedule that our parents have set for us, the schedule that we have to follow because of schools and everything.
Yeah.
And even like the interests that we have is not even ours. It's like the kind of curriculum that your parents send you to, your school has.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be auditor, Mel. I'm supposed to be auditing right now.
Yeah, so
yeah.
no, then the thing is, then you suddenly go into adulthood, right? And okay, if you go into corporate, then yeah, like you can still follow that kind of like regimen, right? But then if you become self-employed, right, there are laws.
Yeah.
And it's a bit scary because it just feels like we are transporting people from like baby to adult. They are older, but inside it's not as old. Like they're still developing.
Yeah.
We are all still like developing even though we are adults. But not in the kind of like, it's not like even adult to adult or like adult to better adult. It's like we're still a baby, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, scary,
And I think it's scary because like
this can be like Black Mirrors, yeah.
Yeah. So you think about it, right? It's like one of the things I realized, and I think I remember I got it from Elle Nightingale, which is like everybody should know Elle Nightingale is some like Jim Rohn, Elle Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, this kind of like gurus and way in the past. And I think he said that like 95% of people will always be normal or poor. Only 5% will always be wealthy, rich, or whatever, successful in that sense, right? But he said this, and then he also mentioned that, therefore, 95% is always the majority. So the easiest way or telltale sign is to always deploy a contrarian thinking to what majority of people are doing or saying, right? So if most people go through the usual education route, they go to corporate, so on and so forth, right? Then you go end up like majority of the people, which means to say, and then the question here is this, right? Are majority of people wealthy, rich, brilliant, and everything else? No, it's only that 5%, right? So I think one of the, you might not, and for anyone listening, I just feel like it's not so much about, sure, we don't know the exact strategies, whatever. I think just generally speaking, if we can just think of like, okay, even advisory, right? It's like everybody is doing Project 100, right? Or everybody is just like going for the opening and closing. Every like 80-90% are doing that, right? Then how do you and I differentiate and stand out and actually be in what I call a blue ocean? Like if you've ever read about the blue ocean strategy, right? It deploys the same idea, which is like red ocean is majority of people doing, can we find ourselves in the blue ocean?
Yeah.
And if we can, and it's, you know what's so difficult? And this is, oh my god, so passionate. You know why is it so difficult to deploy like blue ocean or contrarian thinking? It's not because we don't know how to think, It's because we are afraid of the repercussions
Of being different.
and separating ourselves from majority of people. Right? Ostracize.
Yep.
Right? When you try, it's always like that, right? When you break out the herd mentality, people always try to pull you back in.
Yep.
Right? Or they'll say that, oh, you want to get out? Then when they see you're trying to get out, okay, so usually the process is this. You try to break out, you got lightened, right? You try to break out.
Hey, you sure not?
Yeah, sure or not? Hey, what if this happen? Hey man, what if you invest in coaching is blah blah blah? Let's think about it. Being advisors, and this is why I love us like being advisors and everything else, because being advisors is technically the 5% of the population or even lesser,
Yeah.
This means that we're different. But then again, when you join industry, what do you think people say?
Wow, it's the best career you ever have. People want to be like you.
Yeah, right. And then like right before you sign the damn paper, people are like, man, are you sure this industry is for you? Are you you went AC then you went, you go
you
uni,
government
you
scholar
government scholar
leh.
Do you think you should really go, because not stable, got risk,
Yeah
got
lor.
volatility, then got all these 1,001 things. Everybody try to put you back, right? And then then they realize that. So then because they try to call you back, right? The
Yeah.
moment you break out of it, then if they know that they cannot control or have any influence over you,
Yeah.
then they throw stones and rocks at you. Oh, good luck, right? I literally had an advisor that her sister, every day when she goes back home, the elder sister will make very mean comments, remarks, or execute or deploy certain kind of behaviors that's very demeaning in nature every freaking day. Just because the advisor became an advisor, the elder sister always just every single day, until to the extent whereby, and this lady that I know is a very, very bubbly, positive kind of individual. Yeah, but the elder sister keep doing that. And then it's like, so see, if they cannot have control, they cast stones.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's why it's not that we do not know what to do. I feel it's just we are afraid of breaking away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why people who are able to break away have that kind of courage that majority of people don't. And that's why I truly believe these people deserve to be successful. Because they took the path that is of definitely not least resistance, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to one word, like identity. And I think this is something that I struggle with, and maybe people might struggle with. It's like, what is your identity? Like, what do you stand for? What do you want? What do you believe in? Because the reason why people can cast stones and pull us back to the 95% is because we don't know what is our true north, or we don't know what is real for us. And that's why it's easy for us to, never mind, I'll just go where everyone else is. And that's why it also influences so many things, right? Like whether or not you know you need a coach.
Yeah.
Whether or not you know what problems you have. And that's one thing that our system maybe has done a really good job at, which is like making everyone the same.
Yeah.
I mean, no right, no wrong. I guess the system is the way it is because of like circumstances. Like if you go back to history, then they'll say oh, why we all need to be like blue collar, white collar, whatever lah.
And it's just like capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want to deploy a capitalist
Yeah.
society, you gotta allocate that, right?
But I guess as we are progressing, we have more access to different things around us. I think it's what do you want to make of it, lor? Because now there's so much more information out there about mental health, personal growth, all that kind of stuff. I don't think I saw all these things 5 years ago, honestly. But I feel increasingly now, or maybe just because Instagram hears me. But yeah, so it's if you see all these things, right, the next time you scroll past it or you swipe past it, maybe just take a look at it and then see what comes up when you really internalize it.
So then this brings me back to your journey, right? So during that 3 months that,
Oh my god, we drifted so far.
it's fine. This is the whole point of I think this is where a true conversation is all about, right? Yeah. It's not about drifting. I just, because it reminds me, then how do you break out of it, right? I know, of course, we met and everything else, but generally speaking, maybe the question that I really want to find out also is like, that I never asked you before, which is, then, because, okay, so you talk about finding our true north, right? Like our North Star, like truly going for the things that we truly believe
Yeah.
in and truly want, and not because of the beliefs or influences done by other people, right? And sometimes, like, sometimes heading conversation, we said, like, our thoughts might not even be our thoughts,
Yeah.
right? It's just like other people's thoughts that we think that is our thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So then how did you, I don't know if you've done it already, but how did you kind of like realize that, okay, you know what, maybe these are, like, MDRT is still MDRT, like the money is still the money, you still want to go for it, but how do you know that, like, okay, those are not the things that you necessarily or truly, like, deep down you want? Like, how do you kind of like break out of that, kind of like find what you want, or at least kind of like move out of that stage of like other people's belief and stuff like that?
So I'm still doing it, right? I haven't done it entirely. I'm still doing it. It's a work in progress. But I think on the note of like MDRT, I think it just depends like the order that it comes in, right? Like, is your goal MDRT or is your goal something else? And as a result, MDRT is the outcome. So it's either a process or outcome. So I don't like setting numerical goals as an outcome because I feel like it creates very unnecessary stress, pressure, and you see everyone or every appointment as like a dollar sign, which I don't even want to be in that frame of. And that's why I would rather focus on other things like, do I enjoy my work? Do I enjoy the things that I'm doing? Or like when I meet people, do I like how it's going? I think the more qualitative points and like, or what can I better improve from that appointment? Like, did it go smoothly? Did I communicate too much? Did I talk too much? Like, that kind of stuff. And then like it's just like the idea of improving and fine-tuning.
And do you think this is only a, in your opinion, do you think this is only a luxury or privilege that one can have after they're earning a certain amount of money? Because right now is, we and I are talking about, and I totally agree with you, by the way, like you got to look at, kind of like the process, how can you improve,
Yeah.
and while having goals are still important, but numbers are not the main thing that will get us nearer to them, right? But then again, like on a different note, it's also kind of like, is that then for a privilege, right? Because if you and I don't have money, then is that something that we also, really think about? What do you think?
That's a very good question. I think being financially stable helps with the peace of mind because then you are not pressured by targets or money when you meet people. But even as I started out, wow,
Yeah, I mean, were you like, okay, with the same thing that kind of you're doing now, which is like you audit the process and everything else, or was it also more towards like, okay, let me just hit that money target?
oh no lah, yeah, I still audited my process because I think at the start I knew it was just about meeting more people and like acquiring clients in whatever way possible. Like be it like a shield or PA or like just helping them manage policies that are no longer managed by other people. I think it's just understanding that. I think now it's more of, but I guess it's also like dependent on person because I went through that whole cycle, right? Like I had money, but I still wasn't happy. And it made me not want to work.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why right now I'm just in the headspace of I actually enjoy the things that I do. I just want to avoid that pitfall that I had the previous time. And how do I make sure that I'm always in that state, right? Where I can do the things that I do without the pressure of money and whatever. And I think it's just like you, it's like blind faith and optimism or blind faith and hope that if you do the right things, then the universe will take care of you lah. Because logically speaking, there is no reason that after doing all these things and focusing on all the right stuff that means something to me, there is no reason I should not be able to sustain my lifestyle. And then it goes back to what is enough for you. Because for me, I don't need COT, I don't need TOT, I don't need a luxury car or whatever. Like I think as long as I can eat and like take Grab, I'm happy lah. One day fly business maybe. But yeah, so then you have to tag it to your own personal ideas also mah. Or like ideals about how much is enough for you to lead the lifestyle that you want. And then of course, if you need more or want more, then you have to figure out your own path towards that number lah. But I think for me, it's just what's most important for me is my mental health, my headspace.
Yeah.
And I have found that I am my best self when I am in this state of mind. And that is something that money cannot replace.
And you know, like moving a little bit away from that, right? By still link, I just really want to ask also, you know, in the industry, because one of the things talk about just now was about like earlier on you talk about potential, right? You know, and I think a lot of times we go in this industry, we hit the first round or we hit 50K, and then some of us kind of like slow down or do things that that we are contented with or things that we truly want, right?
Yeah.
But then there are also other people that says like, hey, you have not hit your potential, or they see potential in you, so on and so forth. So what are your thoughts on that? Because from the way I look at this, like two things, I don't even know if it's a problem or a dichotomy, but if you look at it, it's like, can you still hit or reach your potential, whatever that means, yet at the same time being content and being happy with truly what you want? And if the answer is no, that you can only reach your potential if you get out of comfort zone, grow and everything else, but at the same time, you know, you have to let go of certain things that you might just be happy with or whatever it is. Like first question is like, do you think it's a dichotomy? Or do you think it's some mutual exclusive, or do you think it's something that can be, you know, together? And if let's say the answer is it's a dichotomy, then the next question would therefore become, so what should we, or what should we listen, or who should we listen to, right?
I feel like this potential thing, right, is a outside looking in. And this is your inside looking out.
Explain.
Because when someone says, wow, hey, you got a lot of potential, it can mean two things. It can mean that, okay, I think my director said this before. He said like when someone says that you have potential, right, it's a very sad thing. Because it means you're not living up to your expectations. Or like you're not living up, or you're not doing enough. But we always see it as, oh, I got potential. Means like, we always see it as a good thing, but actually it should be seen as that flip side. But I feel like when people say like, hey, you got a lot of potential.
But whose expectations then?
Yeah, correct.
Like, right? Like, because if I say I think that you have a lot of potential
correct.
in you, then that potential it's like my expectations of what I think you should be.
Correct.
Or
But then it's so ironic because how do you know all that when you're not me? And like to a certain degree you are negating or you're discounting all the efforts that the person has put in. Because maybe to them they feel like they have come a long way already to be where they are at now. But every time you remind them of potential, it's like, hey, you're still not doing enough. Back up. It's still not enough. Yeah, but then who are we to say that lah?
Yeah.
Because they might be really happy at that point of time. Or,
I think now they mention, I think this is very important to look at. One of the things I was telling some of our advisors, right? I said like, even including me, like it's very important to discern and really understand what's this person's intention behind the words that they say. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, because if I say, hey, Mel, you got access you got a lot of potential, but then maybe it's just because I want you to do more, then I can earn more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong, but
I
like,
mean, then
you
it's
know,
for whose interest lah.
yeah. But if let's say you're an advisor, don't talk about agency, but in another agency, just another advisor is watching this show. How do you balance it out? If someone is like, you know what, actually now I'm earning 50 grand a year. I have not hit MDRT, but I'm pretty contented with the way I do things. I'm very happy. I have my family, so on and so forth. But then yet, maybe I feel like maybe I also haven't reached my potential. Or maybe other people tell me I still have not reached my potential and I have a long way to go. And they are, supporting me in whatever ways to get there. Now, if advice is in that situation, then what would you do, or what would you at least, say, right? Yeah, your thoughts on that. Because it's like, on one hand, it's like, hey, because if someone is contented, and then it's like, sometimes they might have thoughts like, what if, right? Which is basically what if, right? What if I could have done this?
Very easy. You don't try, you don't know. And what I mean by that is, if the advisor is entertaining thoughts about that, then there's only one way to find out. Then why don't you commit to it, lor? You commit to it and see where it takes you. And it's just a different season, right? Maybe the person has already like started off and then now they're in this state. And I think as humans, we like comfort, but sometimes we also a bit curious about what's outside.
Yeah.
Especially if you are surrounded by people that
It's always pushing
yeah,
the boundaries,
correct.
right?
Because then you'll be a
Yeah.
bit curious, ma. You'll be like, hey, why they keep doing this? Then like fun or what?
Yeah.
I don't know. So for you to realize whether or not it's something that is ultimately what you desire or is not, there's only one way to find out, which is to just try it out. And maybe you don't even need to do the whole journey.
Right.
Like maybe you say you want to do a full marathon. Like a lot of people bucket list is to do a full marathon, right?
yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
But maybe sometimes halfway through the training, they're like, okay, you know what? This is not my thing. Like screw this bucket list. I don't want to do the marathon anymore. Because they realize that it's not what they want, no?
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that still, like if you're unclear, it's kind of like this is kind of like the things that you're comfortable and contented with. Yet on the other hand, it's like you also want to kind of like hit the potential or like grow a little bit more. Then your suggestion or your take is just go and try.
Yeah, and I think even embarking on the process of trying will help you further solidify your current beliefs. And I mean, let me use my example, right? Like a lot of people tell me that I should aim for COT. And to me, it's like, okay, sure. Let's see where the year takes me.
Yeah.
And along the way, I realized that actually I don't want COT. Or like, even if I wanted COT, I haven't found why. My desire as to why I want it. And I realized what's more important is not so much that extra one round, but it's the other things that keep me sane, ma. And that is just what is important for me in this phase that I'm at. But who knows, maybe like 2 years later it'll be different. Because
Seasons. It's about seasons.
Yeah, seasons. Maybe 2 years later or a year later, I'll be in a different headspace. Like everything is already under control and I know how to regulate things better. And maybe I'm then
ready to now
I'm ready for the next step.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same as like whether or not you want to be a manager. This season, no lah. I want to focus on being a producer.
I think it's like, I think that's so powerful. It's kind of like, in my head, it's kind of energy of like, let's say you're a Toyota right now. No offense to Toyota, but let's say Toyota Vios, right? And you want to, maybe the Toyota Vios is not ready to go at 300 km per hour for the next 5 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe not yet. But maybe another season when you change car.
Yeah.
To a Ferrari or maybe a McLaren or whatever, then maybe now you're ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So it's based on seasons and vehicles.
Correct. And then it becomes even more important for you to understand or realize what is your thought and what's the thought of others.
That's so hard to discern, right? You all talk about it. Yeah, that's so hard to discern.
Because people will always be pushing you to do more.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to say, no, it's okay. I don't want to.
And isn't it hard? Like, we talk about it just now, and that's why, you call it the authentic advice system, right? Because I just find that a lot of advisors find that it's very hard. Not about advisors, I think people in general find it very hard to stay true to themselves, right? And what would you say to someone if, let's say, they kind of know what they want, they're still willing to try other things, but they kind of know that, this is the way I want to do things, and maybe if you go a bit more granular, like, okay, I know I don't want to do cold call. Like for me, I didn't want to do cold call, right?
Yeah.
So I know I want to do warm, I don't want to do cold call. But then let's say agency leaders or maybe colleagues say you should do cold call, right? So what we say, or what we do, right? If you are that person that have all the influences that's coming at you, and let's assume it's all of good intentions.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'll say like the first caveat, right? When we say no to implementing new things is to not come from a place of stubbornness or an unwillingness to try. Okay, what I mean by, of course, to some people it might be easier to reach out to friends and they don't want to do roadshows or cold calls because it's painful, it's like tiring, it's boring, whatever. Or like it's too hot or whatever lah, right? They don't like to do it. Then but it sounds different if you say like, oh, I don't want to do roadshows or cold calls because I personally enjoy having more fruitful conversations with people that I'm actually familiar with. or like I would want my work to be based off having meaningful conversations. And the reality of doing cold call or roadshows is that the people are not in a state of mind
Yeah.
to have that conversation with you. But it's different. So it's different, ma. So then it's like you are choosing not to do roadshows because you understand what is it about it that goes against the very grain of what you enjoy
But
about
does
this
it
job.
also mean that does it also assume that this person needs to try what roadshow is all about first before, coming to the conclusion?
Well, I personally have tried it, and that's how I came to a conclusion of what it was about roadshows in particular that I didn't like.
But I have the counter argument for that, right? So I think it's just maybe a degree or like 2 weeks, right? Which is, you don't need to go to prison to know that you don't like prison. Agree? Like, you don't need to go to prison to know that you don't like prison. You don't need to try it out and then say, oh, actually, you know what? I decided I don't like prison, right? So, that's the flip side to that, right? So, to what degree, right? Because clearly this is not either a do it or don't do it, right? It's like, what do you think then would be that fine line, or to what degree then we to try and then know that we don't like, which solidifies what we want or don't want,
Yeah.
versus like, no way in hell do we even want to try this.
Why lor? But then it's like, why you don't go prison?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Or maybe, I mean, this is like a conversation. I think maybe it's because of risk, right? Maybe the stakes are high. Because it's like, if you're using a prison analogy, the stakes are really high.
Yeah. I mean,
But roadshows is like, just what's wrong with one roadshow or 2 roadshows?
you got to pay money or
Yeah, but it's not like a... Maybe
it's not substantial.
Maybe it's risk. Maybe it's a balancing of risk. But correct, right? You don't need to go prison to know that.
But on the flip side, there are people that are also very resistant to doing warm market and they only want to do cold. And then the reasons that come out of it is because like, oh, I paiseh to reach out to my friends.
Yeah.
So then but then you see this reason is already very different from not wanting to do roadshows. Because one is a bit more like I'm stubborn and I refuse to see myself in a different light. Yeah. So I think like with regards to that, okay, so you see it's a bit difficult because I myself tried it. I tried prison. And then I realized that, I really hate prison.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go back. And everyone around me is going to prison. And to varying degrees of success. Like, I think my colleagues actually do meet great people and they do have sales from that. But I would rather choose a different method. And I think if the person wants to choose warm over roadshows, despite nagging and whatever, then they better have a damn good reason why. Because if warm is not working out for you and you refuse to do cold, then you have to relook this entire process and figure out what's wrong with your business model. But if you are already experiencing great degrees of success with your warm, then there's no reason why you need to try something shiny. So as much as it is a very straightforward question, I feel like there are so many like nuances to it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I think like the biggest caveat is like don't say no to things just because of your own beliefs about it. It doesn't hurt to try it and then really internalize what is it that you don't like or like about it.
And I think like to that, right, it's also, I said this to some advisors that needed to hear this, which was, don't let your preferences be your limiting beliefs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because just because I don't prefer something doesn't have to be like, I do not believe in this.
Yeah.
It's just that I do not prefer, right? Yeah. But I think sometimes also on the flip side, it's like, because I don't prefer, then becomes like, I don't even want to try.
Yeah. Then it's stubborn, no?
Yeah, and then after that, the best part, sometimes it's like, I don't prefer this, but then at the same time, you're also not earning money. Then it's like so you want to keep your preferences or you want to be successful, earn money, right? And then maybe after that, find your in between.
Correct. And like, I mean, that's why a lot of like my leaders or like the people that have been in the industry longer, they all started out with cold calls.
Yeah.
They all started cold.
Yeah.
Then gradually they realized that warm is like safe haven. And I'm never going back to cold.
Yeah.
And it was just a process, lor.
Yeah.
And I think like it's just all these different things that we go through that help us solidify lessons or like solidify like your traits, your attributes and your preferences. Because if you never try, you don't know.
And that's why it always goes back to just now that question I asked you, is like whether is it luxury or privilege, right? Of trying. Because like let's be practical and real here. If you're not earning shit, like you're earning like $500 on cold calls or roadshows, and then that's something already, you see, so think about it. I'm really kind of doing something and it's earning me $500, right? And then now you're asking me to do one which I might not have the skill sets, which also means that if I switch it out, I might not have that $500 at all.
Yeah.
And my bank account also running low.
So then it goes back to
Right? You think about
it goes back to why are you not earning the money, lor? Like what is the bottleneck or what is so wrong with how you're doing things? Because I'm damn sure that if you find yourself like in a less than ideal financial situation as a financial advisor, there is something wrong in your sales process or there's something wrong in the way you're doing the work. And that is the problem. Yeah. It's as easy as that. Okay, but of course it's not as easy as that because the reality is there are so many agents and there are so many organizations and not all are equal. And then it differs in terms of like the trainings that you get, the structure that you get. And as this industry is becoming more competitive because the people with the know-how or the people that see that know-how as the way to move forward, like in terms of like competency and everything, you will lag behind if you are not exposed to it. But these are all somewhat within our control because we are not, even though we are in an organization, we are not tied down to it. It doesn't mean that you cannot go out and find your own answers. You first have to ask yourself, actually, what kind of advisor I want to be? Or like, how come or if you cannot close cases, then what is it that you cannot close? Like, there are so many questions to ask yourselves before even asking that question. Is it a luxury or privilege? Like, how can you ask me to do this when I'm not even earning money? That you shouldn't be asking a question. You should be asking all the other questions. Like, why are you not making the money? Or like, why are you not surviving?
I think it requires a lot of, and I feel like, especially in industry, I think it requires like, even if, I think all the things we talk about, right? I think it assumes that before someone can do the things that we talk about, it requires a certain level of awareness, right? And also a level of discernment and having clear intentions. What do I mean, right? It's like, okay, so I'm going to learn from someone, right? Or I'm doing what I'm doing, I want to learn from someone, do other things, right? But I think one of the things you mentioned just was so powerful was about state, which is basically, am I doing it because I truly believe that right now this is not working and I want to transit to a business model that is different versus shiny object syndrome, right? Because that's the other flip side that it could turn out.
Because then they make themselves feel good. Like,
Correct.
I'm trying this, I'm doing that, I'm doing something.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge, and I think that's why self-awareness is like super important in this area. And you know, all the things we talk about, I think this is why, like, when you're not in the usual system of how Singapore or how the country is like, right? You go into self-employed, which is kind of really by yourself to a certain degree, or doing business. I think it's a real true test or a true reflection of actually who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think about it, right? Because let's say you're a corporate, right? Or we're doing something else as a group or whatnot, right? What's going to happen here is that, like, the overall team's performance, on, let's say it could be A, right? But you need to understand, and you've probably been through it. Out of these 10 people, there are maybe only 3 people that are A, star players, and then 5 of them are B players, and then these people cover up for the D players.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, it kind of like prevent them from getting exposed to a certain degree. Because it's that kind of like freeloading, free riding, and then just carrying them, right? But then the thing is, when you come to like being a self-employed and business,
you can't hide.
You can't hide.
There's nowhere to run.
The market tells you whether you suck or you're good.
And then it's what do you want to do with that, lor? Like, do you want to then just, okay, lor, I suck? Or do you want to do something about it? Or do you even want to acknowledge that it is your flaws?
Yeah.
Or you want to blame it on other things?
Responsibility, right? Talk about it. Ownership.
Yeah.
I think people don't take ownership. And it's not because they do not want to take ownership.
It hurts,
right?
lah.
It hurts because it just means that you have to accept that you suck.
Yeah, but then you see, that's the thing. You accept it first, and then at least you know what to do next.
Yeah.
And then you just move on with life. But it's all these things that are not easy because, like, no one teaches us, or like you don't talk about it unless the people around you are in the same like headspace.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy, lah.
And even on that, when you talk about like no one really shares or teaches all these things, right? I think it's also very difficult for, even if like the agency leaders or directors, even like yours, knows it, right? It's not that easy for them in their positions to articulate that also.
Yeah, because it's so...
it's like, you're my advisor, I'm the manager. Like, I obviously know you suck and you really need the hard, blunt truth. But then at the same time, I also don't want you to leave. I don't want you to like, not every agency leader thinks like that, obviously.
Mine got
but like,
My
Yeah.
God, ask
No,
people early.
that's why I say like it's hard. No,
Yeah.
which is why it's hard. You see,
It's not the norm lah. Like,
yeah, it's not.
Because no matter what, you still want the head count.
Correct. I mean, that's the truth. That's how the
Yeah.
industry. There's no right, no wrong, but it is what it is, right? And I think that's why like agency leaders, in my opinion, being an advisor is hard, right? But I truly believe like when you go and become an agency leader, and I've been there before, like it's so much more difficult because then you need to have a very clear idea of what your core values are, what exactly you want to build, and then be able to trade off certain things, which is money for maybe someone that is not performing,
Yeah.
right? Because truth is sometimes there are some advisors that is, just be honest, they're better off being in corporate.
Yeah.
Not because they are lousy, but it's just the nature,
Yeah.
right? But then again, you also don't want to let them go because even if let's say they just earn 10K FYC and let's say
still-
overrunning
yeah.
is 20%, you get 2K. I mean, who's going to complain about 2 grand more? I mean, it's not a lot, but like it's got 2 grand more.
Yeah.
Who's going to complain about that, right? And then if you have like 7 of them, if you have a 30-man agency or man/woman agency, then it's like it's going to be 10 of them or 50 of them. It's not
Then it
gonna
goes
be
back to core values or like
Yeah.
as the leader, when you recruited people or when you recruit people, is it because you want them to be in a better state than they were? And if they join you and they are not, and you still keep them, then you're fucked up. Yeah. And that's why, right, like so many people get scammed into the industry.
Oh, yeah.
You apply on Job Street for a admin role,
Yeah.
suddenly ask you want to become FA. Or like you paint the bright side of the industry, then when you come in, where's the promised land?
Yeah.
And that's why that's why this industry still has a horrible name, because of practices like that. Yeah, and that's why like I think on the other end, the consumers also need to know what they also need to be aware lor. Yeah. And ask more questions.
Yeah. I think a frame of mind, like I come in thinking that I'm really gonna be maybe some social media marketer, then I end up like, okay,
Yeah.
suddenly I get the idea of like
yeah.
FA, right?
It won't be-
Which in some cases is actually worked out very well.
Yeah.
For the FA, right? For the person, the marketer turned FA. But I think it's also like the environment in which they just entered, right? From
Yeah,
this
then
thing
it's
to
like
the
based
frame
off
of mind.
lies and
Yeah. And I think like the state of mind, the frame of mind, like needs to be correct. Because and I think this is why, like, there's some agency that does and like mine in a very long time ago, it was like internship, right? Yeah. So internship is good, right? Because you can get a
Yeah.
lot of people in. But the problem here is that like in terms of churn rate, like people getting out is gonna be high. Because then the frame of mind is like I'm here to try ma.
Yeah.
Which you get the numbers in because the idea is let them to try
Yeah.
ma. Yeah, right. Then it's like long term is also another issue, so on and so forth, right? Yeah. So, I think this is it's a great conversation, man. Yeah. So last couple of things before we kind of like wrap up, right? And one of the things I really wanted to ask also is like, so right now, Mel, you have obviously first year achieved 1.8 rounds, 2 rounds last year, and then now it's 2023, you already finished 1 round. Are you gonna do another round this year?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're doing another round, right? So then then what is Mel gonna do moving forward? Not in terms of just like money, but like how are you gonna plan out how do you see your life as a whole, moving forward? Now that you have, got the accolades, maybe top don't know what, all the stuff that you all know about, but like now we, have this conversation, kind of know like, okay, been through all those stuff, then what is the current Mel gonna do moving forward right now? Or maybe it could be just be a state of mind that you want to
Okay.
hold. Yeah.
I think two main things lah. I feel like business wise, there's still a lot to be done because I think maybe I scaled too fast. Like I expanded too fast. And now I'm playing catch up. Like I have like 200 clients at the end of 2 years. That's like
Oh wow, okay.
yeah, and
it's warm /referrals
Yeah,
/specific inquiries.
yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of people to meet constantly lah.
Indeed.
And like a lot of them I met at the start of my career. And now I'm at a phase where like I know more, I'm doing more. And I have to make my rounds to ensure that everything is still like relevant, etc., etc. So that in itself is a tall order because it's one thing to onboard them. Then it's another thing to ensure that the servicing that is done properly and like everything is in order. So that's one. I have to really make sure that the foundations that my business was built on is not shaky. even if that means going back and like knock here, knock there, see like moving a bit or not. Yeah. Or to like build support to protect it. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But yeah, I think that was one thing that that's one thing on my mind lah. Especially as I realize there are people that I haven't met in a while because
Yeah.
it's a backlog.
Yeah.
The second thing is honestly just like self-awareness and mental health. I think I'm at a state where I now know that I am my best when I'm clear-headed and like I have clarity over what are the things that actually bring me peace and make me happy. So when you ask me like, do I want 1, 2, or 3 rounds? I'll say 1 is the bare minimum. No, actually 2 is the bare minimum. Just because it is for practical reasons. In terms of like lifestyle and like maintaining stuff.
Yeah.
It's not even for once. It's just bare minimum. And that is something that I can resonate with ma. So you see, it's like, oh yes, I want 2 rounds because I need that
But then
amount.
3 rounds, which is COT, is like...
Yeah, do I like...
It just doesn't feel...
Yeah.
It's a feeling right
correct.
now. Right
So,
now. Yeah.
because now I have like no liabilities and I'm very particular about not increasing my liabilities because I don't want to go from 2 to 3 rounds just because of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And whether I jump from 2 to 3 at the expense of my mental health, that is also something that I have to like tug and like push and pull with to see where is the extreme that I can go without going crazy.
Right.
And I think these 2 things are like fixed. They will not change. And then of course if next year we have this conversation again and it's like, so what are your 2 things that I will work on? Then I think it's about expanding on that 45-minute video on business models and really seeing what is the next step to work towards my whole idea of sustainability. Yeah. And I guess that's the beauty. It's like, even though we are bound by calendar and financial years, technically there is no such equivalent for these goals. And maybe it is truly a luxury that I have because I am like financially stable. So I can do things at my own pace within reasonable means lah. Do things at my own pace without feeling that I am pressured to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, last question. Knowing what you know now, this is something I always ask our guests, right? So, knowing what you know now, if you were to go back to day 1 of the moment you got your license, what's that one thing you would just do differently?
What a good question. Let me think about it. What is one thing that I would do differently? It could be anything.
Anything.
I wouldn't be so hard on myself. Or at least I would try to find the joys in like the little things. Or like to be grateful for the things that happen along the way. But of course, one thing that I don't believe in is having regrets. Because, or if like I could change that, I wouldn't, because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Okay. Then, since basically your answer is like you wouldn't change
Yeah.
anything, right? Okay, then I have a backup question, right?
Yeah.
What is one thing that you wish you have known earlier, right from the start?
What is one thing that I wish I would have known earlier?
Such that you wouldn't have to
okay.
go through like all the pain and unnecessary.
The only person that you should trust is yourself.
What do you mean?
And what I mean by that is like, we give so much importance and value to what the people around us tell us. And we take all this feedback from them, right? And then we use that as our own way of valuing ourselves. And it's like only when people praise you, or like if you hit certain things or if you hit awards that are dictated by an external organization that then tells you that you are a good advisor. It's a bit weird, right? Like, I'm only a good advisor if I hit these standards, which are not even determined by clients, but determined by an external body. Yeah, so I think when I say trust ourselves is to kind of know that deep down we have our subconscious. Like, our subconscious will generally tell us when something doesn't feel right. Or when it's like a warning sign, like when it beeps in your head. And I say trust yourself is because when something beeps in your head, then you should pay attention to that instead of like the other external things. And then that's what would tell you where to start from.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Mel.
no problem.
This is a great conversation. Yeah. We went very like different levels, different areas.
You know the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah.
Our
Yeah, it's not even straight line. And it need not be. We are not aiming
Yeah.
for straight line anyway. Yeah. Thanks, man.
no problem.